Before we begin this episode, I wanted to be sure you knew about a unique opportunity to learn with me in person this year. The Victoria Stilwell Academy's Dog Trainer course in-person track for 2025 is enrolling right now through March the 12th. Learn more by visiting vsdogtrainingacademy.com. You can enroll in free starter courses, the fully refundable fundamentals course, the flagship online dog trainer course, and, until mid-March, this year's class of VSA in-person students. Learn more and find out if the in-person track is right for you at vsdogtrainingacademy.com. Again, that's vsdogtrainingacademy.com. We'll see you there. I met this man in 2010 and he became a VSPDT, Victoria Stilwell Positivity Dog Trainer. And it's really hard to become a VSPDT. You have to pass quite a lot of assessments, including one with me and some of my other faculty. So I was really impressed by him. He's a big guy, former police officer, former certified explosive detection canine handler. He is a positive trainer and a wonderful positive trainer. And he's here. He's going to talk to us today about not being such a human. Welcome, Sam, to the podcast.
Good morning, Vic. How are you today?
I'm good. Why do humans get in the way? I always say to people, the world would be so great if there were not people in it.
Unfortunately, I agree with the assessment. It's funny. I was just reading one of my usual novels lately, and one of the lines in there said, "The human species is a few oars short of a full boat."
Yes.
But we are.
Oh my gosh, we are. We're such complex beings. And I think a lot of us try so hard. But it's just work in progress, isn't it? We are dog lovers. Our job as dog training professionals is that we help people understand what they have at the other end of their leash. And that takes up a lot of time and is our battle. So when you're saying, don't be such a human, I think I know what you mean, but can you explain it?
So because of who we are as people, we see everything from the human and our own point of view. Since we don't, as a species, communicate very well, things get in the way. And when you take a look at the animal world, who are such amazing communicators with each other across a wide spectrum of species, and so many times they do it without verbalization, right? But they pay attention. They actually look at what they're seeing. They listen to what they're hearing. They're not quick to join into a conversation for their own sake if it's not going to meet a need. On the other hand, with humans, we're always trying to be in control, right? It's one of the things the challenge that we have when we're working with animals and with our clients, because our clients are always worried about being in control. The old saying, we don't stop and smell the roses. Trying to get people to slow down, calm down. Understand that many times the less we do, the more we accomplish. And it's to look at what we're seeing, to recognize and understand what we're hearing and seeing, to delve into the world of the dog instead of the person, right? Pat Whitaker, who I know you met many, many years ago out in San Diego, who has since passed, but he used to say all the time, no matter what the problem was and no matter what the animal we were working with is, what's the truth is the animal sees it. And we've got to figure out a way to help people understand that is so important from the moment you have the dog in your home or whatever the animal is, stop being such a human and start to see it from their perspective. Once you see it from their perspective, then you begin to communicate effectively, which again is one of our problems as humans.
Well, it sounds great, but how do humans, how do they see the dog? How do they start communicating effectively?
It's hard to get people to understand the concept. And a lot of times, whenever I'm meeting people, whether it's for the first time or the 50th time, before we do anything, we'll have a conversation. The dog is doing whatever it is. And in most of the cases, the dogs I'm dealing with have moderate to severe behavior challenges. And as we're watching the dog, I just ask them what they're seeing. And a lot of times they don't know what they're seeing. Right? So the first challenge is getting them to understand how animals communicate and what's important to the dog. Right? And it's funny because the same things that are important to that dog are the same things that are important to us. Right? Do we feel safe? Are we comfortable? How can we be relaxed? How do we get to enjoy the environment we're in? How do we get the species that are with us, these crazy vertical bipeds that we are, to see what's creating the challenges? Sandy Machado, I know you know Sandy, right?
Yes,
and she talks about, and I do the same thing. The first time we meet, it's all about teaching communication, but it's teaching it from the dog's point of view. It's breaking those myths of, every happy dog wags its tail, or I have to put my hand out for the dog to sniff it. Why do we do that?
Yes, why do we do that?
If a dog can smell out to 2 miles away, depending on weather conditions. So a lot of times when I'm doing this, I'll say, okay, so here, and I'll walk towards the person and I'll stick my hand in their face and they immediately recoil. And it's like, yeah, see, we're no different. But we do have this thing about being the superior species, the top of the food chain and all that kind of stuff. And the fact of the matter is we're not. And
that's a bold statement, Sam.
It is.
What do you mean we're not?
Yes, we can put a man on the moon. Okay. Or yes, we can do, terrific things in the scientific world or whatever it may be, the arts and culture and everything else. But in the end run, how well do we communicate? How much do our egos and our own agendas, whether they're personal or cultural or whatever, get in the way? How much is our fear of mortality affect how much we want to control the environment around us? And is the word control really meaningful? What's the swallow effect, right? The swallow that's flapping its wings, in Chile, South America, has an effect on everything else going on in the world. Well, everything we do has an effect going on in everything else in the world. But more so, especially with those closest to us, which includes our companion animals.
This desire for control, I think there's ego in every industry, of course, but there's a lot of ego in the dog training industry. And
yes.
I feel like I'm constantly talking about it. And it's not just trainers we might disagree with. It's us ourselves. Everybody has an ego. Everybody wants to plant their flag and tell everybody else their beliefs. And of course, there are things that are just plain wrong in dog training. And there are things that are good and right and have the animal's welfare first and foremost. But ego gets in the way. And I would say that whenever I put a post out there that might be challenging the status quo, Sam, let's just put it that way, there's a resounding explosion from what are a lot of the sporting dog world. And they say, oh, yeah, Victoria, you're just, you don't know what you're talking about. You're just a failed actress. You you just, try training a protection dog. You couldn't train a protection dog. You just train the small fluffies. I don't know whether they sound like that. But literally comment after comment after comment. And we're reading those comments going, oh my God, this is just like a real subsection of people that truly believe this, that training the protection dog is the pinnacle of all dog training. Whether it's done as a shock collar or not, it's the pinnacle. And you little lowly trainers down there can't do it. And I'm like, yeah, but wait a second. Training dogs to do protection work or scent work or police work or whatever, especially when you've got a really amazing learner at the end of your leash. As long as you understand the protocols and you are skilled, it does take skill. I would rather, I've not be more excited about doing that. I would rather do that than actually be faced with some of the really intense psychological and emotional issues that I encounter in my work on a daily basis.
Agreed.
I want to work with this high drive, awesome dog. When I get a German Shepherd, I'm like, boom, let's do it. A Mali, boom, let's do it. Let's teach some really fabulous things because I know that learner is like, I'm a sponge. Teach me. But you come over and do what I do what we do, Sam, where we're dealing with dogs that are showing reactive behaviors, aggression issues that are really emotionally compromised. That is a whole nother level. And so this is a long way of asking you the question, Sam, as a police officer for many, many years on New Jersey Transit, is not the most salubrious place to be a police officer. And as a certified explosive detection canine handler, please, could you tell us, do they have a point?
The easiest way to say, no, they don't have a point is the very first day of canine school. Myself and two others from my agency, we were just starting the agency, the canine unit. We're standing there. We're working with the Essex County Sheriff's Office, canine unit, and bomb squad. And they've got bomb dogs, they've got tracking dogs, they've got protection dogs, narcotics dogs. The bomb squad guys, some of them have been in NYPD bomb squad. I mean, everybody there has been on the job. Everybody is used to working in difficult locations, let's put it that way. And the very first thing they said to us was, standing beside you is your partner. If you cannot see your dog as your partner, and if you cannot change yourself to be an effective team, then get out. And they're going, okay, now one of the very first things we're going to do is we want to teach you a phrase or words you're going to use to direct your dog to search for firearms, ammunition, explosives. And they said, if you can't do this, get out. And so we learned for my guy, right? And as soon as you did that, this 16-month-old German Shepherd was just psyched up like crazy, right? And I remember one of the first jobs after canine school that I went to in Newark. They had asked us to help looking for a gun that had been tossed. 2:00 in the morning. And get out of the truck, talk to the guys. They said, okay. And so I'm walking back to the truck, and I use he's still in the truck. 95-pound German Shepherd. He's rocking my Ford Excursion. I hear people laughing, and then he comes out of the truck just psyched and ready to go. And the other officers there, the people in the neighborhood that were there, all they saw was this just whirling dervish of a German Shepherd, happy as anything, ready to go to work. And all of a sudden, we went to work, and everything got real quiet, right? the people in the neighborhood that stuck around, the officers that were there, they were amazed to watch him work. And they just couldn't believe that that kind of a voice was used for this dog. During canine school, other than teaching our dogs to sit when they detected something, which this is a part that amazed me through school, we didn't teach them anything else. We didn't teach them recall. We didn't teach them anything because we didn't have to. It was interesting to watch the process as we went along. I could let my dog off lead to go search wherever. Hey, Sanders, come on, buddy. Boom, here he came back. There was this partnership, a bond. Right? There wasn't a lot of, we didn't holler and scream. We didn't do any of that stuff. And it was eye-opening for me. I was raised with German Shepherds. And I just had never seen this kind of training around dogs. We had guys come in and we would put on the bite suit for them as they were working there, recertifying their patrol dogs. And it was funny because, they grab a hold of the bite sleeve, they got you. It hurts.
Oh, yeah. I put on many a bite suit, Sam. I know exactly that. It hurts, the pressure.
Yes.
I mean, even through that suit, you're going to get bruises.
And we're hearing the handler, oh, good boy, good boy, and playing this game because in the end run, excuse me, what do dogs like to do? They like to chase. Right? A lot of dogs love to play tug. And if you break it down to its simplest form, patrol dog runs after the guy, tracks him out, whatever. He grabs a hold. And what does a human do the very first thing? They pull back.
Pull away.
And then what happens?
Best game in the world.
There you go. We're playing tug, right? They don't know that it is a quote unquote bad guy, suspect, whatever else, right? All of a sudden they're into this game. And you hear even when the handler gets him to release and he's holding on to the dog and the dog's still psyched up and you hear this high-pitched bark that comes from that play sound, right? It's not that deep growl. It's that high-pitched bark. And it's a game. And, I've watched guys do shoots, and I was in Germany for 4 years. I worked with the German Polizei over there. I watched their dogs. It was about a partnership, but the partnership comes that it's not one-sided, right? Partnerships are not one-sided. And so anybody who says, oh, you can't do, well, you know what? And as I said to you before we got on, say that to Steve White, say that to Robert Ewing.
Yes, dude.
Say that to Mrs. Ewing. I mean, yeah, okay, go ahead. Let me know how that works for you, right? Is it going to change? I think in some ways, because we're seeing a lot of agencies now going to using labs in other dogs. And I love the Malleys. I mean, like you said, they love to learn.
Oh, they do.
Oh my God.
And they're faster. They're so fast. You have to be so fast in order to, good luck.
It's an athlete of Olympic quality.
Yep.
Right. And their brain operates that way too. And you're not teaching some of these words that drive me nuts, obedience, or dominance or, being in control or whatever else. If you watch the really good handlers, everything they do is very low key. They put a dog on a track on a 50-foot lead. Everything's low key. They're just letting the dog work, right? Get out of the way. The human's got to get out of the way. Let the dog do what he does. So no, it doesn't matter. I mean, I work with a lot of dogs who have bite histories. A lot of it's genetics, and then there's also environmental and whatever else that comes into it. But with those dogs especially, what are we doing? We're slowing everything down, telling the human, stop. If the brain isn't functioning properly, you can't teach a damn thing because the dog is living in fear. And it's no different than a person who lives in fear for whatever reason, right? The people who have PTSD, the people who've been through traumatic traumas, what's going on and what the people are going to be feeling out in LA with the fires when it's all finally said and done and they've lost everything under the sun. The old thing of, well, if you're scared of heights, we're just going to take you up to the highest building. I want you to look over the edge until you feel better, right? It's all stupid human stuff. The idea is to is to help the animal see the world as less threatening. And if all you're doing is inflicting pain, inflicting dominance, creating fear, exacerbating what's already there, then what have you done? You might make yourself feel better.
Yeah, you've reinforced yourself.
Right.
Because you might see some, in fact, you often see some, in air quotes, success because behavior stopped.
Right.
So that's very positively reinforcing for the human.
Yeah, there we go. The ego.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying we've got to stop being such humans. And listen, you're working with a horse, all right? 1,000, 1,200 pounds of animal. You can use different, pain inflicting methods. And then some point in time, karma's going to get you. Right? I had a chance to sit in on some wolf training. Yeah, I don't think we're doing anything there, right?
Good luck. Done that myself in the UK as well. Been around wolves, and you good luck. Try it.
And that's why I'm amazed at the people who advocate for aversive type training. Feel it's okay with a dog, but if you ask them if they would do it with a wolf, whatever, and no. Well, what's the difference?
Yeah. Well, a wolf is a wild animal, look, people, the way they used to train elephants and lions and tigers, of course, they used to, there's a reason why all of these dreadful circuses have been shut down, because people don't want to see it anymore, because the way these animals are trained is through dominance, is through punishment, is through coercion. It's absolutely disgraceful. And I would say it's a similar thing with some people with the way that they're treating dogs. I also want to say, Sam, that I feel like as a civilian that I got a really close up and personal look at police canine for 5 years when we were filming Guardians of the Night.
Yep.
And I also was able to work some of those dogs, be the person in the bite suit, feel that bite. I was able to experience what it was like in just regular training, but also we went out on all the calls. I've seen the difference of, well, actually, the difference I could say of tracking when we were tracking for real. When you say it's just kind of calm, you're so right. There's a tension, but it's almost like the handler just pulls back and goes, okay, we're going to do this. And that is what is so beautiful to watch, that actually those training setups that were done and reality, whereas there's a bit more stress in the reality of actually finding a person and tracking a person, the dogs worked in a very, very similar way.
Yep.
Seeing a lot of the protection work and sending dogs off and recalling them and bringing it. Also seeing how the Metropolitan Police work their dogs. It was, I feel like I've been given that rare, as a civilian, that rare look at what it was like for these canine handlers to live and work with their dogs. And even though they definitely weren't the most positive, they had that relationship with their dogs that was, you're my buddy. In fact, one of the handlers, who I might not have agreed with all his practices, but I respect very much, said that I'm with my dog more than I am with my family.
Yep.
And these guys who are putting their lives on the line every day, who else puts on a flak jacket? Who else puts on a bulletproof vest to go and work? They put their lives on the line every day. They absolutely love their dogs. And I feel like I was so privileged to get to become a part of that. So I understand what you say, Sam, about this relationship that was so important. And that all of those, and these are like tough South Georgia, these are Georgia cops, right?
Yep.
Okay. their cheerleader voice, their inner cheerleader voices were fabulous. And I also remember working with what used to be State Farm. Unfortunately, State Farm are not working with them anymore, but with the arson dog handlers and with the State Farm arson dog handling program. And I got to work a dog as well. So we're trying to find tiny little droplets of odor in a burn building. That in itself as well is the same thing. You have a relationship with your dog. Your dog is going to tell you where it needs to go. You are a team, because if you're not a team, you're going to put yourself in danger.
Yep.
Am I right?
Our instructors told us, and this is a little different than how they do things in some parts of Western Europe, but especially when you're out there looking for explosives. Wherever your dog goes, you go. There was no thing of, letting them off lead, go down range, wait for them to indicate. We were told, wherever you get a call to, you leave your dog in your truck, you get out first, park quarter and a half mile away, and you start looking for secondary so that when your dog gets out, it can do just what it's trained to do. But whether you're in an open field or going into a tunnel, wherever your dog is, you're at.
Yes.
Right? So you want to talk about having mutual trust? Because as they said to us, the unfortunate thing with a narcotics dog is you may miss something, and that's not good. But if you miss something with an explosive, we got a problem. If you don't let your dog, if you try to steer it, if you don't pay attention to your dog, the chances are that you as a handler are going to make a mistake. And they said, the only good thing is at least you and your dog will be buried together.
Wow.
And we got, I ran the canine unit, and when we had openings, we talked to guys who had an interest in that. And there were a few guys who said, yeah, I didn't realize you had to do that. Because you got to trust that dog, right? And he was right. Yeah, I mean, let's face it, your dog goes to work with you. Dog came home with you. Dog went on vacation. I mean, Sanders went everywhere. But more than that, because it's the exact same thing with the dog that's sharing a home with his people, right? And I harp on this a lot because I'm big into words and whatever. To me, there's a difference between a relationship and a partnership. Okay. Too many times I've seen relationships in my life that are one-sided, whereas a partnership generally will be a mutual. And trying to get, again, people to say, okay, slow down. Here's a dog we're working with. Here's a dog you are hoping to have, but we're going to be realistic in setting the goals. And something I tell my clients all the time is, if you think at any time that you're working with your dog, that I'm working with your dog, if you think at any time you're going too slow, you're not. Animals have infinite patience. We don't, right? Knowing that a dog's brain, equates it out of a 30-month-old child in many different ways. Great. How do I get my needs met? That's all it's asking. How do I get my needs met? Are we spending time with them mentally and physically enriching their lives? Right? Are we recognizing when they don't want to be bothered? This was a client last week, and the dog was a little skittish. It was great. The dog had made great choices. It said, I need to be further away from you. That was great, or whatever. And so the dog was standing right next to where one of the people was seated. And it was leaning into the seat, right? And the one person reached over to pet the dog, and the dog moved away. And I said to them, just curious, why did you reach over? Well, I just wanted to pet my dog. And that's one of those things where you didn't recognize that the dog was leaning in because you were close and it was getting comfort and reassurance, but it didn't want to be touched. How many dogs that we work with are so, people call them aloof or whatever. There are many dogs that like to be in proximity to their people, but aren't necessarily looking to be touched. Right? There are dogs who will walk up to sniff someone new, but they're not looking to be touched. But do we respect that, or are we the typical human of, this is what I want to do? And again, that human thing, because just because you want to, look at your dog. Does your dog want to? And if the answer is not a definitive yes from both sides of that question, do it.
After the break, we're going to take a quick break. I'd like to talk about truth is how the dog sees it.
Yep.
Not how you see it. Truth is how the dog sees it. I'd like to explore that. And I'd also like to give our listeners some ways that they can maybe provide a better partnership with their dog, and also talk about some of your work with aggression.
Okay.
We'll be back after this quick break. Are you a dog behavior geek like me? Join me for my absolute favorite weekend of the year, the 2025 Dog Behavior Conference. If you've attended before, you know how special the DBC is. And if you've never joined us for this amazing 3-day online event, it's truly a one-of-a-kind gathering of like-minded dog geeks, pet pros, trainers, and animal advocates from all over the world. Registration is now open at dogbehaviorconference.com, and the virtual live conference takes place on April the 4th to the 6th. Your registration gives you access to all 3 days of the conference online, as well as the ability to replay all of the presentations and live Q&As from the conference for up to 1 year, as much as you like. Our list of speakers for the DBC are truly amazing. Carmelita Uftaheidi, Amber Batson, Irit Bloom, Tom Candy, Sarah Fisher, Andrew Hale, Sindor Pangal, Joe Pay, Julia Robertson, Zazie Todd, Nikki Tudge, and of course, myself. So, reserve your spot today at dogbehaviorconference.com. That's dogbehaviorconference.com. I'll see you there. I'm back with Sam Wike, and truth is how a dog sees it. That's what you say. Can you explain that?
Pat Whitaker, who was just a brilliant animal trainer of so many different species, and who had been a human psychologist, and then went to working with animals and that. He was the one who always said, look at every challenge as what's the truth as a dog sees it. And when he first said it, I was like, well, what does it mean? He said, so if you're a dog, what do you see? And I said, I don't know. And he said, and that's the problem. So he said, you've got to learn how to see the world from their point of view, not just visually, but you've got to understand how their brain works. You've got to understand that they still have primal instincts that I'm sure we had at some point, but they don't really exist anymore. You've got to understand that instinct can override fear in some cases, but it doesn't mean the fear is gone, right? You got to take a look at what they enjoy. And I can't remember if it was Kathy Sadal, Nicole Wild, I can't remember. Years ago, an article in Chronicle the Dog, and she said one of the most amazing things she ever did where she lived, she had a chance to take her dogs out and just let them off lead. And she watched what they were interested in versus what she was interested in. And she said it was pretty amazing because about 50% of what she was interested in, they were, and 50% of what they are interested in, she had no idea why. And it leads to that, do we really pay attention to them? Do we really pay attention to their needs? Do we really pay attention to the things that they see are incredibly amazing or incredibly scary, right? Do we give them the ability to make choices? We all want to be able to make choices in our life about so many things. Do we give them that? And if we do, then do we actually look at and see and recognize and understand the choice that they've made? The more often you do that, it's going to enhance that partnership unbelievably. And that's what, he said, he said, if you're working with an aggressive dog, he said, you don't take a look at what it's doing necessarily. You've got to get to the root of the problem, right? What's the truth? If the dog is barking, aggressively at something or someone or whatever, well, can we figure out why? Or do you know why the dog is comfortable at 20 feet and not at 10 feet? He said, instead of trying to push yourself up to 10 feet, stand back at 20 feet. Let the dog see that you're not a threat or as much of a threat. All this kind of stuff was trying to get it so that we would stop and for a moment, we would be that dog, the cat, the horse, whatever. When we, PPG, when we did our thing out at Best Friends a few years ago, I had such a good time. We were target training desert tortoises, right? And I was like, okay, whatever. And what would amaze me was, first of all, yes, they love dandelions. That's their favorite food. But what was so cool to me was we were doing this. As we moved around, they made a point of staying in the shadows. Right? And it's like, wonder why they're doing that. Because at that time of the day, the sun was too hot. So if you tried to do some target training with them and they were in the sun, they just didn't pay attention. They didn't care. They moved into the shadows. You had to understand them in order to achieve whatever you were setting out to do. Right. And so, you get things like that. When I went down to Georgia after APDT and we had the training day with you, the testing day with you at the shelter. Right? And, you said they're going to bring in some green dogs. Most young, they really don't know anything. And you just wanted to see, what we did. And even before they came in, I remember sitting down on the floor and then the dogs came in and they handed off a dog to me. And all I did was let the dog do whatever it wanted to. And we started to play. And I was amazed that some people immediately went to trying clicker training or whatever they were doing. And it's like, slow down. You don't know the dog doesn't know you. Just take your time, get to know each other. Right?
And that's exactly what I wanted to see. People just being, not going and taking out their clicker or starting to train the dog to do this, that, and everything. I wanted to see what people would do. And the best is just be.
Yeah. Right. What's the truth as a dog sees it? It's in a new environment out there. There's lots of people. There's other dogs. So let the dog just kind of get used to things. And I talk to trainers that I mentor, and the first thing I tell them is, first time you go meet people and their dog, don't do anything. Just let the dog figure out who you are and see it from their point of view. So that's that whole thing about what's the truth as a dog sees it.
I love it. Now you deal with a lot of aggression.
Yes.
And again, it's a really broad subject. Mm-hmm. But could you take us through like a typical case that you might have and how you address it?
I'm working a case right now. A dog has 2 bites. Has never shown it before. It's a 5-year-old dog. And they just didn't understand what had happened. Right. And I met with them for the first time last week. And I had them fill out, I have a very long behavior survey I have them fill out. So I kind of knew going in that the dog probably has some underlying anxiety for whatever reason. And so going in the house, standing at the door, talking to them, the dog comes over, sniffs, and then walks away. And they're like, oh, come on, come back over here and meet Sam. I said, stop. The dog made a great choice. It got whatever information it needed, and then it said, I need some distance. And it was there quite a while, and pointing out to them, and even with them, if they move their hands too fast towards the dog's head, I watched that flinch and that pulling away. And it's like, Don't know why it happened, guys. No idea. But here's what I know. It's uncomfortable for the dog. So that's not what we're going to do. And work with dogs. Listen, I've been very lucky. In 18 years, I've only been bitten twice. My mistakes. Both times, I didn't ask enough questions before going.
Here. Same.
Right? And both times, at some point in time, it went. One time, it took 10 minutes. The second time, it took all of about 30 seconds, and everything just went south. There are some dogs who I work with who are so emotionally, neurologically damaged that when we pull in veterinary behaviorists and we pull in UPenn or Tufts or whoever, we're doing, as Nick Dodman says, you throw every possible combination of medication cocktail and management and protocols and whatever else. And sometimes it is not going to have a happy ending. But no matter what you're doing, grass grows faster than the work that we're doing, right? Paint dries faster, whatever you want to use. The idea is to slow down. The idea is to figure out, okay, in the beginning, are we actually teaching anything other than for their people to learn how to understand how the dog communicates? Are we putting in place good management skills? And if necessary, are we referring them to veterinary behaviors? Because, Karen Overall's talked about it. Nick Dodman talks about it. Ray Coppinger talked about it. If the brain is flooded with too much cortisol, it can't learn. Cortisol prevents learning. That's the job it's supposed to do. And if you're dealing with a dog who has fear-based behaviors, whether they're the flight, the fight, or the freeze, fidget, whatever, it's because there's too much cortisol, right? And people go in there, well, we're going to fix this and we're going to fix that. And, worst comes to worst, we're going to, I don't know, prong shock, whatever, or we're going to do. The only thing you're going to do is create more problems. There are trainers who think it's a badge of honor to get bitten.
Yep.
There are humans, there are owners, guardians who, no matter how many times they've been bitten, they're like, but it's okay.
It's not.
And there are times when we have done everything that science is telling us we can do that gives us the best chance for success. There are those times when we have to give the dog peace. Dog training, you can be doing puppy classes, you can be working aggression cases, you can be doing service dog training, whatever else. There's no guarantee that every dog is going to be 100% successful. And it's okay if they're not. If you have the dog that is just that crazy, goofy, silly, I don't understand. I want to meet everybody and I want to meet every dog. And we're trying to teach it some social graces, right? Mm-hmm. But it's okay. We'll get there, But recognize this dog has this social personality that, hey, listen, we wish they all had. There's another word that's, to me, is just a terrible word anymore, is socialization.
Oh, gosh.
I'm going to take my dog to the dog park to socialize him.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to do that. I'm going to take my dog here and there. I'm going to have, I've had the dog in the house for a week. It's a great dog. So we decided to have a party, and that way it'll socialize them. I hate the word training. When I think of training, I think about athletes training, right? I think about, as an actor, I like to sing, right? And we have to train our voices, right? But are we training or are we teaching them the skills that hopefully will allow them to live in this crazy, chaotic human world that they didn't necessarily ask to be brought into, but they're trying their damnedest to get along with. Again, part of humans, trying to get people to change the words they use. Try to get them to understand that something as simple as a word with a softer sounding first consonant can actually do better. The rocket recall protocol, right? And she says, Shazam. and it's great because I've got people, and it's interesting because generally it'll turn out to be the guy who comes up with some silly word who now recognizes it's okay. Right? Guys looking for that validation. Okay, I can be this silly voice. Like you said, the cheerleader voice, right? And I tell people all the time, especially with recall, if you can't use the silly voice, you can't use the silly word, etc. And God forbid your dog gets away, doesn't come back, something terrible happens. That's on you. We want the dog to come to you. We want the dog to go, man, it's the greatest thing in the world. Yeah, I'm out here sniffing goose poop, but running back to my owner because I know we're going to do something fun, right? We're asking the people to say, how can I get my dog to enjoy me, right? The whole human thing, just for me, it covers a wide spectrum, but it's important.
Yeah, it is. Sam, this is one of the reasons why you became a VSPDT, because you are so credentialed anyway, but the fact that you are part of our group, we so value you. You do work in the New Jersey area. People want to find out more about you, contact you. And
the easiest way is the website, theinnerdog.com. Yeah. And again, take a look at the name that I named my company, The Inner Dog, because that's what we work with. And it's the best part. I have to tell you, do you know how many veterinary behaviorists I met who have special needs children? Do you know how many of my clients who have dogs with various challenges also have special needs children? And so when we can get them to see that it's the same thing, it's not just a human thing, but it's across such a wide spectrum, right? It makes it easier.
Sam, you are an absolute light in this world of dog training. I know I don't like the word training as well. It's teaching, guiding,
coaching.
Yeah. But unfortunately, we're known as dog trainers. So we have a hard time actually even having our industry being taken seriously.
True.
In the first place. So I don't know if we can really change the name.
Right.
But yeah, what we do is teach, guide, coach. That's how we as positive trainers approach it. We do not approach it as I'm going to dominate. I'm going to have an obedient dog. I'm going to show off all my wonderful skills of how close my dog can walk to me and walk and look up at me and all these amazing things that I can do with my dog. We're not bothered with that. That does have its place. I'm not dissing the people who do competition. In fact, I have a lot of my friends that do what I call positive obedience competition. And so I don't diss it. That's the thing that they like to do with their dogs and their dogs like to do with them. I mean, but I'm saying that when you see these people trying to, for want of a better word, display their egos for other people to go, wow, that's amazing. I want to do that with my dog. Actually, just take a moment, stop, and really look at, do you really want to do that? Is your dog really happy doing that? How are you going to achieve that? And maybe, as you said, you just got to go a little slower. And I think your dog is going to thank you for it. We live in a very fast and a very busy world. It's hard enough for us to keep up. It's really doubly, triply hard for our dogs who don't speak our language. So, Sam, thank you so much for joining me. I
appreciate you having me. Thank you.
You are just, I'm so pleased to know you. And I know that you're involved with a lot of great organizations. And please keep doing what you're doing.
And hopefully someday we'll get you back up to New Jersey.
You betcha. I'll be there.
When you stop off in New York to see your dog.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thank you so much, Sam.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to this podcast. I think it's thought-provoking. isn't it? When you have somebody like Sam Wike, who is a companion dog trainer, but has been a canine handler for so many years and doing such difficult work, operating a certified explosive detection dog. I mean, that's top notch. And when you have somebody like him that has been working with working dogs for so long, I feel like there's a lot that we can learn about how we need to be with our dogs, whatever jobs they fulfill in our lives. You take care, everybody. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you on another podcast.
Thanks for tuning in to Victoria Stilwell's Positively podcast. For Victoria's online dog training courses, more information, and helpful dog training tips, visit Victoria's official website at positively.com. Get connected on Facebook, Instagram, and other social media as Victoria Stilwell, and follow her on Twitter at Victoria S. Learn to become a professional dog trainer with the Victoria Stilwell Academy at vsdogtrainingacademy.com. And be sure to tune in next time as Victoria helps you and your dog live your best life together, positively.